Hey, it's your girl, Carla Renata. I'm here at AFTERBUZZ Spotlight on, and the spotlight today is going to be on, guess who? Keena Ferguson. We'll be right back.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, lovely people. Hello. So I am here with someone who is a friend, is a colleague, and a fantabulous actress. We're going to talk about so many things that evolve around her career, but I want to start out with introducing Miss Keena Ferguson, unbranded actress extraordinary.
Ooh, love it all. Thank you.
So let's just talk about your one-woman show, Unbranded. You know, as someone who teaches social media and talks about social media, I'm really interested to know why you titled your show Unbranded.
Yes, well, I know that initially I'd only seen a couple of one-person shows in my life, and I knew when I started going after doing the show, I knew what I wanted to do it wasn't going to be chronological, it wasn't going to be, this some tragic event. It just felt like it just needed no label. So I started calling it No Label, because I wanted people to come in and not expect anything. I wanted people to just sit back and say, I'm just here for an experience. And so slowly after No Label, it became Unbranded.
Girl, pull them headphones up on your head. Stop trying to be cute.
Happened? I'm like, what happened? Okay, I think I'm together now.
Okay.
I'm together. So then, I was like, well, No Label isn't, quite the title. But then as I started talking through it with my director, Unbranded came to me one day and I was like, that's it. Okay. Unbranded, because it's really a show about releasing all inhibitions and just being truthful to who you are, and taking off that veil and just being pretty much naked. So because of that, Unbranded just fit.
Okay, so let's talk about how you go from a dancer at Ohio State University,
the Ohio State University,
how you go from a dancer to being this unbranded actress in Hollywood. Take us on your journey.
Yeah, well, my mom's a dancer. So I was born into dancing. So I've been a dancer all my life. And then I was doing musical theater growing up, but it wasn't one of those things where I felt like I didn't really look at theater as this is going to be my career. Mm-hmm. It was just I love performing and I knew I'd be a performer. So when I was a dance major at the Ohio State University, I decided, as soon as I stepped into college, I was like, as soon as I graduate, I'm moving to LA or New York, one of the two, but I'm getting my college degree and then I'm going to start my career. So 4 days after graduation, I graduated on Saturday. On Wednesday, I jumped on the plane and I moved to LA, and it was like, it's time to start my acting. I will continue with my dancing. I didn't know, I knew eventually I'd probably write and direct, but I didn't know that it would all happen kind of so soon. Voiceover, filmmaking, all those things just kind of started to come together. And as I like to tell people, for me, dancing, a great dancer is also an actor on stage, because you have to emote and you need to be expressive. Mm-hmm. It's not just about technique. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was acting already was natural. It was already something I was already doing.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me about, we all know the hottest show on FX right now is Atlanta. Girl, let me just say, I saw you on Atlanta and didn't realize that that's who I was seeing.
Oh, thank you.
Because I'm used to seeing the fabulous, bubbly, gorgeous Keena that's sitting in front of me. I was not used to seeing round the way Keena.
Okay, round the way, hood, kids, just living life what? I know, right?
Talk to me about what that experience was like for you. That is the hottest show on television.
It is. It's been such a blessing and so wonderful. And right after my parents first saw it, my dad called me and he was like, so where'd you learn how to talk like that? Where does that come from? I was like, Dad, I got characters in here.
I got
jokes. But it was amazing. Donald Glover, because he was doing something so new and fresh and just innovative, when I stepped on set, I said to him, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, because I don't get to play Round the Way Girls.
No.
That's not something I get to play.
No.
And
no. Because usually you play the pulled up sophisticated lawyers,
exactly.
the pulled up sophisticated
wives, yep, girlfriends.
Girlfriends. I've seen a lot of your work, and
Yes.
I've never seen you
Yes.
like that. That's why I didn't know who you were.
I know, I love it.
It was kind of fantabulous.
It was so amazing to do. And Donald, I said, thank you so much for this opportunity. I never get to play these type of characters. He was like, your audition was amazing. He was like, there was no other choice. We were immediately like, her. He was like, I don't know why. And I was like, thank you for giving me that opportunity. He was like, absolutely. So for me, that was just wonderful, because sometimes you don't even get the opportunity.
Right.
But it was like, yes, give me this opportunity and I can play this role as well. And the set was just warm and free. They gave you a lot of freedom to kind of just play. There's a line that made it on the show that was an ad lib.
Okay, which one was it? was it when y'all ran into the rapper?
So it's the part where
I thought so. Okay, go ahead.
So it's the part where I was like, let me put my hand on your chest, like, you know what I mean? And so they kept that. We had ad libbed a lot, and Tyree and I had so much fun, like, playing off each other. He kept being like, just keep feeding me. I'm gonna keep feeding you back. So it was warm and it was real. They didn't want this Hollywood glossed over sheen. Like, they were like, we're not giving you makeup. It's just regular how you're gonna be.
Okay, let's stop right there. How did you feel? Because every actress lives for booking a gig and getting that hair and that makeup done. So what was your face looking like when they were like, you know what, we don't need to do makeup on you today?
Honey, I was like, say what now? But she was like, look, we had a meeting yesterday and they told us specifically for you, they don't want any makeup. They're like, they want you to, they didn't want me to be prettied up.
Well, but to be fair, you don't really need it.
Well, honey,
you're prettied up without it.
Well, thank you. But, we feel like, but honey, we feel like, I was like, well, can I get a little mascara?
Can I just get a little base? I was like, can I just get a little powder?
So,
and they were like, no.
Right. So they gave me like just enough like little powder to be like, shine. But I was like, can I just get mascara? And she was like, I'm going to give you one. Like, it was like literally like one little, I was like, that's it. She was like, and Vaseline on the lips. Let's go. I was like, ah! But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm so grateful for that, because a lot of people were like, I did not realize that was you until like halfway through. I was like, wait, or until so it was
but
so amazing.
That speaks to your ability to go with the flow. That speaks to your ability to inhabit the character that you've been given.
Absolutely.
Because some actresses would have been so caught up in the fact that they're going to be seen on national TV with no face,
right?
That they wouldn't with no face, that they wouldn't be able to adequately bring the character to life,
yes, right? And for me, I'm always like, I just want to act. I want to play characters. I want to create. So I'm not caught up in all that. You know what I mean? Like, sure, the vain part of you is like, ooh, but the character part, I'm like, let's get it. You know what I mean? Like, after you get past the like, say what? Then you're like, okay, let's get it.
All right, so let's go from talking about guest starring and co-starring on television to being a series regular on SWAT.
Oh yeah, so I'm not,
because there's a big difference. So for those people that are watching,
right,
that don't know what that difference is, distinguish what that difference is, and then distinguish what that difference was for you.
Right. Well, let's be clear. I'm not a series regular on SWAT. I'm not. I know. Not yet.
I'm projecting.
Project on me, honey. Project on me. But that is a huge difference. I mean, you go from doing a few episodes on a TV show to being, on every single episode of a show as a series regular. But when I booked SWAT, I didn't even know, it's a pilot. You don't know that it's going to get picked up. You're hopeful, but you don't know. And so once I found that it got picked up, I was like, it's such a great show and it's so amazing. And, I don't know.
Give us what the premise is.
So it's based off the movie SWAT from back in the day, which...
Is that the one with LL Cool J?
No, it's the one with, this is so bad because everybody's like, you didn't see SWAT? I'm like, I know. Revoke my black card. I did not see SWAT. I did not see SWAT.
Okay. And then there's that.
And then there's that. But it's based off that movie, the SWAT team, and they're, now they've modernize it in the sense that basically they're solving crimes, if you will. But Shamar Moore's character is very much connected to the hood still. He still lives in the, the hometown boy of LA. So he's able to fluctuate between the two. So with all the stuff with police brutality and all that, he's able to be trusted by the natives to give him information to help to solve problems and crimes amongst the world. And because we feel connected to him, which my character, Jamel, is a character that sees him, and I'm an informant. I help to give him information that he needs to know because we do trust him. We don't believe he's going to do us wrong and do us harm.
So speak to us about what your character is in the show.
So my character is, he frequents this beauty salon that another girlfriend of mine plays the owner, Kalila Joy. She plays the owner of that salon. And because she and I are friends, it was such a great booking. And so he comes there to look for information often because, in the beauty salon, who don't have all the info? We got all the tea in the beauty salon. So I'm also one of her friends in the show and one of her regular customers. So when he comes there to get all the tea, I'm the one who's always like, well, let me give it to you this way. So I'm just his informant, one of the informants who helps to tell him what's all going on.
Okay, now I want to flip it back just for a second. So I want you to speak to what does it take exactly for someone who you're on that grind, you're doing the co-star, guest star, series regular, trying to book, keep the work consistent. And when it's not consistent, you created this show, unbranded. Speak to the people about what it takes to create a one-woman show, because you just don't wake up and go, I'm going to do a one-woman show. Oh, yeah, let me figure out a title. Okay, so let's book it. Like, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
So speak to us about what that entails.
Yeah, so what my story with doing Keena and Brandon was that for a whole year, God was on my shoulder like, you need to do this show. You need to do this show. And I was like, I don't want to do that show. Like, can I just get some more TV jobs? Let's do it, right? And so it took like a full year. And I remember I was driving down the street one day and I just went, fine, I'll do it. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what to do, but I'll do it. And so I was like, and I'm going to say no label because I don't know what this is. And then what I started doing was just writing stories because I didn't have, and I didn't have those like tragic stories that was like, which is great that people are able to release that, but I think I felt like, well, I did have a great childhood, and I've had a very blessed life. So
what kind of stories comprised your particular show?
Well, it ended up being, I was like, I have so much to say. I talked a lot about from dating. I talked about bullying, growing up. I talked about dimming your own light for other people to shine, that you don't also realize that's happening at times. You just until later in life. I talk about loss of loved ones, and I talk about the issue of pro-choice.
Were you bullied growing up?
I didn't think of it as being bullied, but when I look back now, I feel like I was bullied. When I think about, it was like these group of friends who, they're your friends, and they did it to not just me, but everyone. It'd be like, you'd show up at school and they'd be like, I'm not your friend anymore. I don't like you today. And you'd be like, but I just talked to you last night on the phone. We were fine. I don't understand. And then like after lunch, they'd be like, hey girl, I don't know why she don't like you. I'm still your friend. And then by the end of the day, everybody's your friend again. And then the next day it may go to the other girl. And then you'd be like, oh wait, it's my turn again. And eventually I was able to separate myself from them. But for me that, there was a lot of like, anxiety is too strong of a word, but there was just a lot of like, well, what did I do that you don't like me today, but you liked me yesterday, and it's only been 12 hours.
Do you think having that experience, because I was bullied as a child as well, do you think having that experience growing up colored the type of actress you have become?
Oh, absolutely, because I use those characters in my story. And so many people could relate to that because, I think especially growing up, African American, I grew up in a pretty much white town. So, you felt like the girls that are your friends, you feel like I kind of got to stick with these people because it's us, But I think that for me, it definitely colors because I have all these characters to pull from. And like each of them are very specific to me when I use them in the show. But I do think that then, you weren't calling it bullying because you're like, oh, they just don't like me today, but we're friends again by the end of the day. But, that can wear on you. And so for me, friendship is so important and it's so deep for me because those things were very hurtful to just never know. Like, I think today we're friends, tomorrow we're not friends. It was just very, and eventually, I separated myself and my parents were like, I don't know why you don't need to be friends with them. And of course, the minute that you do that, then they're like, no, wait, you're like, I'm good. And then and then it flips. It becomes them trying to always be your friend. But at that time I had moved on. I'd found my group of friends that we didn't have those issues anymore.
Right.
So right. I do talk about that because I didn't see the effects of that until later.
So besides the montage or segment where you're talking about bullying, what are some of the other
dating, of course.
Oh,
talking about dating. Yes, we have to talk about dating. So
have you speed dated?
I have not. So I don't have those stories, which is funny because all the kind of typical things I felt like I didn't have. But what I did have is I was always really open to love. My parents have been married 40 years.
Oh, that's lovely.
So lovely. They're so in love. They act like newlyweds still to this day. So I grew up in a very loving household with both my parents. So I've always been super open to love. So I was always willing to bring you, I'll try this and let me try this, But the thing that did do is you got a lot of colorful characters, right? So like on one of them.
That is such a wonderful way to put it. A lot of colorful, because if that had been me, I got a lot of busters.
Honey, no, colorful characters. I have one thing in the show where I'm like, okay, so don't judge me, but I went out with a guy that I met exiting off the highway. Like he pulled up to me and I was like, sure, yeah, we could do a date. And at the time it was terrible, but it's one of the funniest characters that people love the most.
Okay, what was so funny about him?
He was going to restaurants like, ooh, I only got $50, so can we go to another restaurant? I'm like, oh, you only brought $50 for me? Like he was, that dude who like wants to be a rapper, but he's not a rapper, so he hangs with the rappers. So he's always name dropping people, and then he doesn't have like really a lot of class either, but he thinks he has class. So when we ended up at restaurants, he's very like, say what now? So this white tablecloth, what's this mean right here? This for the good stuff. We wipe our hands on this. Like, okay. Where have you not been in life?
Yeah, I had one. I had one in New York that thought he was doing something by taking me on a date to McDonald's. But continue.
See what I'm saying? And that was his thing. He was like, my favorite restaurant is Fridays. I was like, Fridays cannot be your favorite. He's like, they got the best chicken Alfredo. I'm like, Fridays is not the place you say they have the best chicken Alfredo. Like, that's just not the place.
Oh, Lord.
You know what I mean?
And do you talk about him in the show?
Oh, God.
Who else do you talk about?
I talk about a guy who is what I like to call, like, my black Nubian dreadlock king man. Okay. Like the dudes who like, they're so earthy and they're so just, everything is just about you right now. If you got it, sister, nah. You know what I mean? It's just,
yes, I know them too.
Everything you like, sir, do we need to be this into the earth? Like, just let's come up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Can I get you a shovel? Can we just dig a hole for a second?
Right. But it's interesting how, for me, what I find with dating, because I've dated so many different types of men, is that they bring something to you that you find interesting at the moment, and then you look back, you're like, God, that was really dumb. Like, what was I thinking about? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and all of them were great guys. I'm always like, they're all great guys. A lot of them I'm still friends with, and I think friends meaning like, we can see each other. What's going on?
Well, that's big of you.
I'm such a loving person.
Clearly. So we've talked about the bullying. We've talked about dating.
Loss of loved ones, like what grief is like,
Was there a particular loss for you?
My grandfather, mm-hmm. My dad's father was really, really hard for me. And it was just really hard. Like, I would be driving and
look at you tearing up talking about it.
I just love him so much, and I feel like it was so unexpected and so just kind of sudden that it really just affected me. And death is one of those things. There's nothing you can do about it. Like, you're not going to speak to that person again. There's no more time, and that really just kept eating me up, like, because I was going to call him like the night before, and I was like, I'll call him. You know what I mean? So then you're like, I should have called. Why didn't I call? I should have called. But, so that really affected. And I also think for me, what death can do is that, you're living your life and you're going along fine, and you think about the moment before that happened. Like, at that moment, I was actually in Hawaii with an ex-boyfriend. See, these boyfriends come up.
It's a recurring thing.
It's a recurring thing. And I was thinking like, wow, I'm having a magnificent time and it's so fun. And then all of a sudden your life gets put to a halt and you're like, okay, 5 minutes ago, life was amazing. Now life is hard. You know, and I think that's the other thing about the title of Unbranded, and the thing that my show is not chronological, because life isn't chronological, really. You know what I mean? As far as, yes, we know age-wise, but like, you may plan today, I'm going to go to the store, then I'm going to do this, and then you run into somebody you know, and then they're like, you should come with me for drinks. You're like, I will go for drinks. And then you see an ex-boyfriend, and you're like, oh, why did I end up talking to him? And then you know what I mean? Like, life just takes you on these twists and turns, and it doesn't just go the way we planned it every day.
Right. You know what I did want to ask you about Unbranded is, a lot of times when we see one person shows, it's usually filtering in on their whole entire life in like an hour and 45 minutes, or it's filtering in on different characters in their life. There's another young lady that's here in Los Angeles that I went to see her one-woman show, and she portrayed herself and everybody else. So I'm just interested and curious to know that when you were crafting your one-woman show, was that a conscious choice to just do it from your point of view and your voice?
Well, I do play like over 13 characters. So I play the men. So when we go into characters, I do both. I play them, and then I play me as what my response was.
How challenging is that to do?
Oh, it was super challenging.
And how long did you have to rehearse to get that down?
It was super challenging. My director, Tanya Alexander, was really great at helping me to shape myself to be those characters, especially men characters and older people characters, because that's all in the physicality.
Did stuff come up for you in the process of crafting that?
It did.
Do you think it made you grow and stretch?
It made me the best actor, I feel, because I challenged myself. Like, there were a lot of characters I was like, I can never play that. I can never play that. But I was like, but I gotta play it. So then I did it, and I was like, wow, like, I can do it. Like, you know, we think that there's a limit sometimes. Like, oh, I could never do that. Or I could, but I need like 10 years to get ready for that. But you don't when you just commit and put the work in. Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't change clothes at all in my show. Mm-hmm. So for me, everything is about the physical and the voice. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, it is like, how do you contort your body to be a certain character that's different than when I come back to being me, that then is going into something else. So there was a lot of just movement rehearsals with my director where we would just try out, well, how did you feel like that guy walked? And then what does he have that's different? And what does his hand do? And how is his head tilted? Is he a chin up, a chin down? You know, like all those little bitty things.
Little intricacies.
And yes, you know, and then I had a couple comedian friends that I worked with just to get certain timing right for characters and comedy and, and those kind of things. Mm-hmm.
So how long total did it take you to build the show, with the rehearsals and the intricacies and deciding which characters were going to work and which characters kind of had to like go in a drawer somewhere? Because I'm sure some people didn't make the cut.
Some people didn't make the cut. They may come back around, but they didn't make it. So I really said to myself, I'm going to do it in December, and I did the show in March.
Oh, that's fast.
Yeah, but I'm a deadline person. So I'm very much like, I got the theater, here are the dates, then there's no backing out. There's no way to, you know, not move forward. And it makes you put in all the work. So roughly, I guess, December, January, February, I mean, like 3.5 months, you know, but we were in that lab on all those characters. I mean, it consumed my life. And in a very great way. And I also dance in the show. I have live music, and I'm also dancing in the show. So it's also choreography rehearsals.
I was about to say, I saw a live band, and I saw you dancing. I was like, oh, look at Keena going the gang.
Honey, you gotta give it all. Give it all. And so, it was one of the most amazing things that I've done, I feel, because there were things I didn't think I could do when I did them.
Well, now you know that there are no limitations to what you can accomplish. I'm going to leave that one-woman show alone, but I just wanted to let the listeners and the viewers know what that process is like, because people see that and they think that someone has thrown it up, you know, right away, or thrown it up like in a couple of days, couple of weeks,
right?
Not, you know, and not giving it the type of thought and the type of process that you did. So I just wanted to make sure that people are very crystal clear about that. Now, I want to jump to a little birdie told me that you worked with somebody by the last name of Smith.
Don't be giving me no trivia. Who?
As in Big Willie. Will Smith, girl. Like, really?
So
you ain't heard Will Smith called Big Willie?
Oh, gosh, it's so funny. I have not heard that. That is so funny. So he produced the bachelorette party.
She said, don't give me no trivia.
Right. I was like, child, I'm terrible at that. I'm not the
Keena
person
Ferguson, this is your life.
Honey, I am not the person you want on your trivia team. I'm like, wait, who is it? I don't know. Yes, he produced the tour that I was on, the bachelorette party.
Now let's talk about that, because we hear about Will Smith doing a lot of things. Producing the bachelorette party is not one of them. So,
I know.
So tell us what the bachelorette party was, what your part in it was, and how if you know how Will Smith became involved in producing that project.
Well, I know that him and the director were friends from Philly.
And the director is
Don B. Welch. And so he came to see the show, and I don't know the particulars, but I know that he came to see the show and loved it. And next thing I knew, because I just did the show in LA, I came in late. I did the show in LA, and the next thing I knew, they were like, there's going to be a tour. And Don called me up one day and was like, would you like to be on the tour? And I was like, yes, I would. I surely would. And so he, and I don't know what that entails as far as him being the producer of it, but I know that.
But when I said that, I meant, the correlation between.
It was really an amazing experience. Like, we just had so much fun.
Now, was it really evolved around a bachelorette party, or is that code for something else?
No, it really was revolved around a bachelorette party, and that was happening. And there were 8 women maybe, and all of us are the leads of the show, pretty much all the leads of the show. And so we're all on that stage, and we just have a blast. And then Genuine was on the tour with us as well, so he was also in the show. So that was a whole other level, and it was really, really fun. My family were able to come see it in different cities, and we would do anywhere from 4 to 8 shows in a city. So we'd be in a city from anywhere from a week to 10 days, and then we'd come back to LA, and then we'd fly back out to the next city, and then we'd come back to LA and fly back out to the next city.
Now, had you toured before that?
I had not toured in that way.
How did you like touring?
I liked it a lot. I mean, I love traveling. As a dancer, I'd done spot dates and performed in other cities, but I really enjoyed touring. Just because to be in another city performing is always just wonderful, and you're there long enough to be able to see the city and do some things. So that was really exciting for me. Really exciting. It was great, and it did start to open up other doors as well. And I met a lot of friends in other cities that I'm still friends with now.
Oh, that's great.
Which is also really nice.
That's great. So let's jump to Keena Ferguson, This Is Your Life. So we're going to jump to another subject about a film that you did with Stephen Dorff that's gotten a lot of attention, especially in the LA Times. Let's talk about that. Tell the people.
Yes, American Hero.
Yes.
So American Hero, it's funny because you don't realize some of the great projects you do until you're doing interviews, and then you're like, oh, I have done some great projects that I'm really proud of. So American Hero is a superhero film / comedy. So I play his ex-wife, mother of his child, and Eddie Griffin is also in the film. And Eddie Griffin and I also played in another film about 6 months prior to that. So we were both like, so we're just going to keep working together, huh? We're just going to keep working together.
Y'all just following each other around Hollywood.
So we shot that film in New Orleans. So I was there for about a month. And I was, I'm the straight person. He's this superhero who has these superpowers, but he uses them, at first he's using them for bad, and he turns them around to use them for good. But he's also not being the best father, which is why I had to divorce him. And he doesn't know how to he doesn't have any boundaries on himself. He just tends to let loose.
Right.
So because he wants to be a better father, which I tell him, you're not going to see your son until you do, he starts to change it around and use these superpowers for good.
Now let's talk about the fact that this is an interracial couple.
It is.
That's in a film.
Yes.
We hardly ever see that.
I know.
Ever. How did you feel about that? About being part of an interracial couple on screen, because we don't see that.
That's an interesting question.
And that's part of reality. That's part of our world today. There's a lot of multicultural children. Zendaya,
Absolutely.
who played my daughter on Shake It Up, is half black and half white. That is part of the fabric we live in right now. So what was that like for you?
It's interesting because when I auditioned, I noticed that they specifically said African American woman. At the time, I didn't know who
else was playing
right
what.
So I was just going into it. By the time I went for the director's session and they told me it was Stephen Dorff, the director is from the UK, so that's always interesting because they don't think
like
not
that.
thinking that way. So for him it was like, I just wanted him to when I wrote it and I thought of the character, she was a black woman. Stephen Dorff is obviously white. So I thought that was so great that that's what he wanted. And it doesn't come up in the film. It's never mentioned. It's just two people who loved each other, who had a child, and then ended up
that are now
divorced.
having an issue. Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think that was great. And that is such a good question. I didn't really think about that except for the fact of our child. And living in New Orleans, and in the part that we lived in was mostly Black, and most of his friends in the movie are either Black or Hispanic. So that was also super interesting that they did it that way too. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have much thought about it. For me, it was just that this was somebody I once loved. And this is somebody who I had an amazing child with.
Now, I'm going to bring up another one. This is Your Life, Keena Ferguson. So we're going to talk about, I was researching you and saw this project that you had done called From the Fly.
Yes.
I kind of loved that. Talk to the people
you.
about what is From the Fly, why you decided to do that. I mean, I know why, but I want the people watching to know why.
Yes. So From the Fly is a docuseries about actors, artists, creatives, and it's as if you were a fly on the wall, the things you don't hear. Because I feel like as an artist... For example, what it's like when you don't get the role. For example... casting couches. For example, you may see me on TV, but it doesn't mean I live in a big house with a Porsche. You know what I mean? Like,
of course I know.
Right, you know?
I know.
Right.
Come on now.
Come on. I think it's such a real thing because I have most of my friends out here are artists in some way. And we have these conversations and I'm always like, wow, if people could hear this. Not to distract you from doing what you're doing, but to just say this is the realism of what it's like to be an artist. It's a lot of long nights. It's a lot of putting in the work and not always seeing the results that you feel like you should see for the amount of time and energy you've given it. And so what I did is I broke it down into 3 different categories. Actors who had big hits in the 80s who are, now back auditioning and on that. And what's that like to have been on hit series that people knew you from?
Or hit films, because you have Art Evans in one of them.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
To have that and to still be auditioning now. And what's that like to make that switch? And then I have a men's section and a women's section because I feel like those can also be very different.
Now, why did you ever mix the conversation between?
I did not ever mix them.
And why did you decide to keep them separate? Because did you think that the conversations would be different if it was in mixed company? I
felt like the conversations could get too broad all over the place, and I wanted when people watch them, all the episodes are only 1 to 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I wanted people when they watch them to be able to get what they want to get from that particular group. So I plan to do more of these. So when I do more, I do plan to maybe do a mixing because there is something that you can learn obviously from kind of the older generation. Also what a man's perspective is, because there were things that the men talked about. They even bring up like depression in there and like, yeah, I'm working hard, I'm doing this, but sometimes at night I'm like, man, because again, as a man, you want to be a provider, you want to do all these things, but sometimes if you're not working as much as you like to be working, then you don't feel like you can be a provider, which may mean then why some men in the business aren't getting married early, because they're like, can I provide? And those things, and they brought those up.
And that's real.
That's really real.
Now was this specifically geared toward people of color, or was it open to everyone?
It was open to everyone. It's funny because I was like, oh, this ended up being mostly all people of color.
And that's why I asked.
Yes. I was like, this ended up being mostly people of color. But which is fine and great, but it was just the people that are in my immediate network that I really respect their work. People that I know are like have done a lot of things. Eamon Joseph is doing Snowfall. He just did the movie with The Rock. You've got Sean Carter Peterson, who did just all these
amazing things. I've worked with Sean on Heart of Dixie.
Right.
He's amazing, and he's a musician.
Right.
He's an artist.
That's the movie. Yeah.
Yes, he does so many different things as his wife's side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like these people that are in my immediate network, but the conversations are not moderated. I don't ask questions. It's not a host. It's literally as if you were a fly on the wall of coming in and you heard these actors talking and just getting a feel of that. And I just thought that was super important. I thought it was inspiring, for one, to know what it really takes, but also to see that these people are still here and they're making a living doing it. But it's also not the A level, because sometimes for me, when I watch The Hollywood Reporter, their round table, sometimes I'm like, I want the nitty gritty though. Like, you're already here. Like, give me that middle. It's the middle before.
But when they do that Hollywood Reporter round table, there's only so much they can say because it is the Hollywood Reporter, and it is most of the time they do it revolving around award season.
And that's why I developed From the Fly, because I wanted that other perspective. That I call it the middle before. To me, all of these people are the middle before they're about to make it to that A level, right?
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about. So we talked about what it took to build and brand Unbranded. Let's talk about what it took to build and brand, so to speak, From the Fly, because I thought it was when I saw that, it's shot beautifully. You look absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
It's shot beautifully. The teaser for it is just really wonderful.
Thank you.
And the premise behind it is just exemplary. So I wanted to know, as do the people watching, what it took to. It's one thing to build a one-woman show, but it's a completely separate thing to build a web. This is a web series, right?
Yes, it's a web docuseries.
So
yes.
it's a very different thing to build that. Mm-hmm. What are the differences or the obstacles or non-obstacles that you encountered in the process of switching from the live stage thing to something that's on camera?
Yeah, well, I'm a creator. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm a storyteller. And for me, what this was, I was like, this is an idea that I don't listen fast enough. I'm trying to get better at listening fast enough, because this idea was there for like a year, and then finally I was like, let me just do it. Fine, I'll do it. Another one of those. And I was like, this doesn't take a big budget. Call up some people shoot it. We shot it on the iPhone.
Really?
Shot it on the iPhone.
See, that's why I asked, because a lot of people watching this will think, oh, I don't have a budget. I can't hire a camera crew. I don't have no lights. I can't do this.
Listen,
I can't do that.
My husband was one of the DPs. He had one of the iPhones, and I had another friend who had the other. We had two iPhones, and we were able to use an app on one of the other. We had a third iPhone that was our sound, and we used an app on there for our sound. We got our locations donated to us, and I brought in the actors. So it didn't really cost anything. And for me, what I always say, even I coach a lot of like filmmakers or creatives who have projects, and the thing I always say is, if there's something you want to do, if you set that deadline and do it, you'll get it done. So for me, I started emailing the actors, and then I picked a date, and I was like,
had to do it by that date.
Now we're gonna do it.
Did you remember that film a couple of years ago that was all the rage during award season called Tangerine?
Yes.
And they shot it all on iPhones. What was fascinating to me about that is that, because I thought, I have an iPhone. The battery life on that bad boy is not extensive.
It is not.
So
there was a lot of plugging in and charging.
I was about to say, so how did you keep it charged?
Yeah, because...
And did you have to switch out a couple of different phones? Like, did you have more than two phones?
No, what we did was I had a bunch of portable chargers. So we would just connect them, and then when that charger would die, we would reconnect. And so it was a lot of that. My other DP was like, charger, because we didn't want to break camera at all. Like, I didn't really do cuts at all. I just let them go. So, and again, that was for the authenticity of it. I didn't want to be like, so tell me about this. I was like...
And what app did you use for the sound, and what app did you use to film? Because I know in Tangerine, they used the app Filmic.
I used Movie Pro.
Okay.
I used Movie Pro, and then I used, I think it's just called Voice, the app for the sound. But technically, the sound from the iPhones actually picked up so well that there was only a couple of little spots that my editor had to like pull in the other sound. Other than that, the sound was really amazing, which I was like, this is why you have to try things.
And how long does it take to edit? So how many hours did you shoot for that? And how many hours did you shoot? How long did it take to edit in order to get it up and out?
So we shot for 2 hours for each group, and we have 30 episodes, 1 to 3 minutes apiece.
Okay. And
my editor, Melissa Ward, she was just incredible. As soon as I told her what it was, she immediately knew my vision. She had it. She knew exactly. And so it took us probably, I'd say it took almost 2 months to kind of edit, just for the fact of like going through all that footage and deciding what's, because there are some things, obviously actors, we love to talk, so there's some things where you're like, well, we don't need that part, that's a lot extra.
That's a lot going on right there.
That's a lot going on right there. Hello. But it was important for me to just let it run that way so that I could get the authentic reactions and the authentic conversations.
Well, you could use the other stuff as B-roll.
Right, yeah, because definitely, actors,
we'll talk.
Honey, we will talk. And it was just really funny to see, because it does take, even though they know that they're being filmed, I did want it to feel like if you and I were out for coffee and some other actor friends of us joined and we just started talking about an audition, I wanted it to feel that way, which is why there is no moderator. So with doing that, it still took 10 or 15 minutes for them to be like, okay, right, there is no and then for them to literally just jump in. And people were really open, and I thought that was great, because when people watch it, especially other aspiring artists or people who feel like they get stuck or feel like, I've been out here a long time, why is it happening? You can watch some of these and go, oh wait, I see him all the time on TV.
I think it's excellent. I think it is an excellent tool to encourage actors, and that is why I brought it up.
Thank you so much.
Because everything, the whole trajectory of our conversation this afternoon has been you encouraging, you aspiring as well as inspiring.
Absolutely.
And I love you for that. I love that you have taken that torch and you are running with it like you're trying to light that Olympic torch at the big stadium. I love you for that.
Thank you.
Moving forward, where would you like to see your career go? What is the ultimate thing that you want to see Keena do? Because you've done the one-woman show, you've done the docu-web series,
I've created my own short films.
You've created your own short films, you co-star, you guest star, you working on that series regular. What is the one thing that you want to see happen for your career, let's say in the next year?
I would like to be, or I will be, a series regular on a TV show. And I will shoot a like a superhero film, like a Marvel, one of those. I'm very interested in doing action and being some kind of a superhero in that way. Because I also do voiceover, it'd be really nice to also have my voice lended to multiple video games, which is my niche. That's pretty much what I do, is a ton of video games.
Oh, okay.
But more video games and more animated series.
And I buried the lead. With Unbranded, you were nominated. The show was nominated for 5 NAACP, and you won for what?
I won for Best One Person Show.
Yay!
I know, that was just icing.
Because people get nominated for some. Let me back it up. Some people don't even get nominated for stuff. They work really hard and they don't even see a nomination. But then to get nominated and then walk home with a statue, what?
I know. And my parents were here and it was amazing and glorious. But let me say to that point that when I did start off my show, you start off doing your show like, I want to show people I can act. You know what? Hollywood, look at me. I can do these characters. By the time I stepped out on that stage opening night, it wasn't even about me anymore. It was about the gift of these stories and what these characters can give to other people, to change them, to understand that we're all the same in so many ways, that we relate, that we are a community, that you don't know what someone's story is, and that it doesn't matter how small something may be to other people, because you may not have some big tragedy or whatever, that those things are still really relevant to you.
Would you want to shift being in front of the camera to staying behind the camera with your films and maybe going the film festival route or doing something along those lines?
Well, I've done so many film festivals with my first film, Kai. We won like 5 or 6 awards. We did like 40 plus festivals. So I've done that route. I do want to stay directing. I've been very fortunate. I'm directing my 2nd episode of Everything I Did Wrong in My 20s, which is a popular web series. And I directed my HBO film, Linden Passing. So I love directing, and I really want to do more of that, but not trade it in for, like, I really am a person, like, I want to do a little of this, and then I want to do that, and then I want to go over here.
Now, would you advise people nowadays, the millennials that are out there, would you advise millennials to have several different hats that they can put on to just keep the train rolling?
I would. I think it's just important. I think that if you are a storyteller in any way, there's so many ways to tell a story. And I do think that you don't want to be sitting around waiting for the story to be told only as an actor. You know, because I'm sure you're an actor because you create in your head. So why not take some of those creations in your head and use them to funnel out a new story that you create while you're waiting to get that next audition? Because usually what happens is as soon as you start doing that, then you get the phone call, and then there that is, you know? But I do believe that for me, I could never do just one. I've always had to be, I didn't know that I'd also be like doing all these other things so quickly, but I find so much joy in it. I find so much joy and so much power in being able to control the stories that I also want to see. And I just think that you can sit around and you can be sad about not getting enough auditions, or, oh, I was so close to booking that job and not booking it. But if you're out there creating at the same time, you don't have time to think about being sad, because you're also giving other people an opportunity to work on your projects.
What advice would you give for the little young brown girl that's in Ohio, from the town that you came from?
Well, I came from Missouri, but
I'm saying, but you were in Ohio State University, so that's in Ohio.
That is.
So a little brown girl that was that's sitting up in Ohio, that's at Ohio State University, studying dance or theater or wanting to be an actor on TV. What would you say to her about trying to come to LA or New York or any place to be a working actor?
I would say you get on that plane and you come straight here and you hit the ground running, and you remember that you are enough, that what you have to offer is good enough, and that it is going to be a hard road. There are going to be twists and turns along the way, but if your eye is set that this is what you want to do and it makes you happy, it brings you joy, then there's no stopping you, and you just keep going. You will find your way if you keep putting one foot in front of the other. That is guaranteed to success. You will not keep putting one foot in front of the other only to fail. That will not happen.
Well, all right then, Miss Keena Ferguson.
I mean, Miss Carla.
This is your life.
I mean, this is my life.
I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy, busy day, because you are a lady that is on the move doing some wonderful, wonderful things.
Thank you, just like you.
Well, I try. And I thank you for taking time to come out and talking to us for AfterBuzz and Spotlight on where can people find you online, websites, social media handles, all that.
Yes, so speaking of Keena Unbranded, I have an Indiegogo campaign right now, so you can always go to Indiegogo.com and put in Keena Unbranded and find me. But I'm Keena Star everywhere. Keena Star 13 on Instagram, Keena Star Twitter and Facebook.
Great. Thank you, Miss Keena Ferguson. I am Carla Renata, the Curvy Film Critic. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Twitter, and Instagram at The Curvy Critic. This was AfterBuzz's Spotlight on. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.